You know, that feeling, that real desire to not just know about things, but to actually truly understand them.
Oh, absolutely. Especially with something as, well, vital as figuring out your financial well-being.
Exactly. And listeners, if that's you, you've landed in the right place today. Because the material we're looking at, it feels like finding a treasure map for exactly that.
It really does. And what's great is how it's presented. We're digging into these core ideas from Naval Ravikant, but they're filtered through this fantastic podcast, Un Tesoro para mi Sobrino, A Treasure for My Nephew by Joan Doménech Cardenachs.
Yeah, it makes it so accessible.
Right. It's like getting these, profound investor insights, but explained with the warmth of an uncle talking to his nephew. Really clever.
It totally strips away the usual jargon.
Yeah.
What struck me about the sources was just how these big ideas are broken down into, well, almost simple, relatable principles. That uncle-nephew framing, talking to Luis José, it just works.
It does.
So our plan for this deep dive isn't just to list these 12 ideas. We want to unpack them, look at the nuances, and really pull out what's actionable for you, the listener, wherever you're starting from.
It's about getting the underlying principles, not just quick fixes.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Okay, so let's jump in. The very first point on this map, building value.
Mm.
The core idea is aprende a construir cosas útiles para la gente. Learn to build useful things for people. Seems simple on the surface, right? But what's really going on there?
Well, what's interesting is the leverage, If you create something genuinely useful, something people actually need or want, the more people value it, the bigger its impact, and potentially the greater the reward for you. The toy maker analogy is perfect.
Right, a toy everyone loves.
Yeah, exactly. Creates widespread joy, the creator gets rewarded. But thinking deeper, what kind of useful things have the most leverage today? Is it always about, solving huge global problems?
Or can small things still make a big splash?
Right. And how do you even spot those needs in the first place? It's tricky.
That spotting part is crucial, isn't it? It's not just building anything. It's identifying a real problem or desire and then figuring out how your specific skills can address it.
Which ties perfectly into the next big shift in thinking they talk about, the ownership mindset.
Ah, yes. Piensa como dueño, no como empleado. Think like an owner, not an employee. This feels like a fundamental shift.
It really is. The lemonade stand analogy, simple but powerful. The helper trades time for a set wage. Their potential is capped, right? But the owner, they take on more risk, sure, more responsibility, but they also have a direct stake in the outcome, the success, and the rewards.
So how do you foster that owner mindset if you are an employee right now? Can you?
I think you can. It's about taking initiative, maybe looking for ways to add value beyond just your job description, understanding how what you do fits into the bigger picture. It's a mental shift, seeing yourself as someone creating value directly linked to results.
What stops people from making that shift usually?
Yeah.
Fear, comfort zone.
Could be lots of things. Maybe feeling like you lack control or not seeing that direct connection you mentioned.
But seeing that connection is exactly what the next step helps with. Financial literacy. Entiende cómo funciona el dinero. Understand how money works. It sounds basic, but so many people feel kind of adrift here.
Oh, totally. It's way more than just balancing a budget, isn't it?
Definitely.
The analogy used money as a seed you plant and care for that introduces time and compounding. Crucial concepts.
Right. That money isn't just sitting there.
Exactly. It can be a tool that actually works for you over time, but you need to manage it, invest it strategically. This is where understanding things like, interest, inflation, different assets, it becomes really important.
It's like knowing the soil before you plant the seed.
Precisely. Without understanding that soil, how can you make good decisions about where to plant? It makes you think, what specific financial knowledge would actually make the biggest difference for someone right now?
That's a good question for listeners to chew on. Okay, so once you understand the soil, the next step is about your unique seed. Sé muy bueno en algo específico. Be very good at something specific.
The world's best block tower builder.
Huh? Yeah. The quirky example, but it makes the point about specialization, doesn't it? What's the real power there?
It's about becoming exceptionally valuable in a niche, in a world that's, let's face it, pretty competitive.
Yeah.
Having that mastery means people will seek you out. They'll pay a premium for real expertise. It's finding your talent, what you're genuinely interested in, and just honing it relentlessly, becoming the go-to person.
But is there a downside? Can you become too specialized? Like, what if your niche disappears?
That's a valid point. Maybe it's about balancing deep skill with some adaptability, being aware of the landscape.
Interesting trade-off. And speaking of resources, that brings us to one we all have but maybe misuse: time. Date cuenta de que el tiempo es muy valioso. Realize time is very valuable.
The candy analogy is stark, isn't it? Each second is a non-refundable candy.
It really makes you stop and think, how am I spending these seconds, these candies?
Exactly. Is your time going into things that build long-term value, learning, creating, building relationships? Or is it just evaporating on stuff with little return?
That idea of time is finite, irreplaceable. It makes you think about being intentional.
Absolutely. How can listeners get more conscious about allocating their time, making sure it lines up with their actual goals?
That's the challenge. And if you want to amplify those time investments, the next step is crucial today. Aprovecha la magia de Internet. Take advantage of the magic of the Internet.
The giant megaphone analogy, so true.
Yeah, the reach is just incredible. It's leveled the playing field in so many ways.
It really has. The internet changed everything, connecting people globally with ideas, skills, products, at a scale we couldn't have imagined before.
Building businesses, finding your audience.
Finding your tribe, yeah. Regardless of where you are physically, what about that magic strikes you most? Overcoming old barriers.
I think it's bypassing the old gatekeepers. You can connect directly with people who get what you're doing. But, like any powerful tool, it's not without, well, risks.
Which leads perfectly to the next principle. No tengas miedo de arriesgarte, pero con cabeza. Don't be afraid to take risks, but intelligently.
I like the visual. Carefully crossing a puddle, looking for stepping stones, not just jumping blindly.
That calculated approach is key. You often have to step out of your comfort zone to grow, and that means risk. But it's not about being reckless.
It's about thinking it through.
Right. Assessing the downside, understanding the potential upside, making informed choices. Calculated steps, not massive leaps of faith. How can people evaluate risks better? Are there frameworks?
Good question. Having some kind of process helps take the emotion out of it, maybe. And speaking of process, big things take time, which is the next point. Sé paciente, el universo no se construyó en un día. Be patient.
The apple seed analogy. Familiar maybe, but still spot on.
It really is.
It captures that idea of delayed gratification. Real achievements, wealth, skill, a business, they all take time, consistent effort, sticking with it.
Very few overnight successes, despite what it sometimes looks like.
Almost none. It's about playing the long game, understanding that compounding, whether it's money or effort, needs time to work its magic.
How do you stay patient, though, when everything around us screams instant results?
That is tough. Maybe focusing on the process itself, celebrating the small milestones along the way.
Yeah, that helps. And to support that long game, the next bit of advice is very direct. Ahorra mucho dinero. Save a lot of money.
Simple, but crucial. The candy's in a safe image, it's about building that foundation.
Your safety net.
Exactly. Savings provide security, a buffer, but they also provide the capital, the fuel for future opportunities, like investments. It's hard to build wealth without that saving habit first.
What are some practical ways people can actually increase their savings, even small amounts?
Little changes, consistently. Automating it maybe, making it a non-negotiable part of your budget.
Small hinges swing big doors over time. Okay, so you've saved. Now what? Invierte en cosas que entiendes. Invest in things you understand.
This one is huge for avoiding mistakes. Only buying seeds for fruits you know how to grow.
Keeps you out of trouble.
Definitely. If you actually understand the asset, the business, whatever it is, you're way better equipped to judge its potential, its risks. Chasing hype, jumping into things you don't get.
Usually ends badly.
Often, yeah. It ties into that idea of your circle of competence, right? Why is staying inside that circle so important for investing?
Because you actually know why you're making the decision, I guess. It's not just guesswork or following the herd.
Exactly. Now, you could have the best skills, the most amazing toys, but if nobody knows...
Then what's the point? Which brings us to aprende a vender lo que haces. Learn to sell what you do.
The beautiful drawings need a buyer.
Yeah, you need to show them.
Being able to communicate the value of what you offer, product, service, your own skills, it's essential. And selling isn't necessarily pushy tactics.
No, it's more about connection.
I think so. Connecting with people who can actually benefit from what you have and just clearly explaining that benefit. It's a core skill for anyone trying to build something or make an impact. What gets missed sometimes in selling?
Maybe the listening part. Understanding what the other person actually needs rather than just talking about your thing.
That's a great point. And finally, underpinning all of this, the last principle, sé una persona honesta y de confianza. Be an honest and trustworthy person.
The friend who always keeps their promises. Simple, powerful.
Trust. It's the bedrock, isn't it? For long-term relationships, personal and professional, your reputation for integrity, for reliability that opens doors, it builds strong partnerships. It's just invaluable.
How does that play out specifically in business or finance?
It creates this positive feedback loop, doesn't it? Trust leads to more opportunities, better collaborations, resilience when things get tough. It's fundamental to sustainable success.
So there we have it. 12 key ideas, the steps on this treasure map, presented so clearly by Joan Doménech Cardenachs, drawing from Naval Ravikant's insights.
And like the uncle tells Luis José, it's not ultimately about just piling up candies or money.
Right. There's a bigger goal.
Exactly. The real aim is freedom. The ability to pursue what you're passionate about, to have autonomy, live life more on your own terms. Wealth is the tool, the means to that end. It's about the choices it gives you.
So quite a journey through these ideas.
Yeah.
Building value, thinking like an owner, understanding money, specializing, valuing time, using the internet, smart risk-taking, being patient, saving, smart investing, selling, and integrity. It's a solid toolkit.
And they're not just theories. As the analogies show, they're practical principles. It's not about luck, as the source emphasizes. It's about learning, applying that knowledge, working consistently, making thoughtful choices.
So for everyone listening, as you think about this map, maybe ask yourself, which of these steps feels most relevant right now? What's one small thing, one concrete action you could take today based on this to start?
Well, building your own toys. Yeah, and remember, this deep dive is just scratching the surface, really. Each one of these ideas could be explored much, much further. So we definitely encourage you to keep digging into whatever sparked your interest today. Keep that learning journey going.